The Tyrant's Beloved Empress. Chapter 15. Stories about the Northern Warlord. The tea house in Yejing has been quite prosperous these past few days. The ground floor was filled with guests and the upper floor was occupied by a storyteller running out of saliva as he spread his tale. As his listeners increased, the storyteller knocked on the table with his fan and began. This took place at sunset, on Yongle Street where people were bustling by. From afar came a large steed and on that steed were two people, one was illustrious and domineering, the other had the grace of Panon. The storyteller spread his fan. Can you tell who they are? It's none other than the Northern Warlord and his newly wedded Wang Fei. It is said that this Wang Fei is quite something, a man whose beauty trumps that of a woman by three folds. Word has it that when the Northern Warlord first met him, he was so mesmerized that he had to make him his Wang Fei at all costs. But Wang Fei is after all a man. What kind of logic is this? The storyteller continued his narrative, but below came a disapproving voice. The storyteller's words are nonsensical. Hasn't the Northern Warlord's Wang Fei had long been dead? It was said that on the second day after their marriage, he was quietly pulled out of the city and buried. Where did you hear that from? It's ridiculous. Another listener heard his words and rebuked. Just the other day, the Northern Warlord had taken his Wang Fei to San Weizai. I heard that because Wang Fei likes the plum pastries there, Wang Ye had specially taken him there to buy them. That's right, a nearby Anta said. Recently, the plum blossom pastries from San Weizai are selling like crazy. It is said that if you eat them, you'll be as beautiful as a fairy, just like the Wang Fei. If it isn't always sold out, I'd love to get my hands on a few. Someone else joked, lady, even at this age you still want a second spring. The Anta let out a pei, and said, don't be silly. It's for my daughter. The man who had started this conversion was surprised by the series of comments. At a loss, he turned back to listen to the storyteller, but the storyteller was already retelling how Wang Fei had rejected the Northern Warlord's advances and in turn, was taken as a prisoner and locked up in the Wang Manor. The man. Although the story was absurd, the tea house guests were highly intrigued. As the end of the new year approaches, people tend to want to listen to new and interesting gossip. The story of the notorious Northern Warlord abducting the Wang Fei and abusing him into submission was more entertaining than the news of yet another servant's demise in the Wang Manor. As the storyteller's words spiraled into absurdity, a young man dressed in blue sitting at the back stood up to leave. Two men dressed in grey followed behind him. After exiting the tea house, one of the men in grey said, "This storyteller's words are ludicrous." The man in blue said, "But the two riding back home on the same horse is true. Say, do you think that second brother really likes that unfavored son, or is he just putting on a show for us?" The man in grey thought for a moment before replying, "I'm afraid he's only putting on a show. There have never been any whispers of him liking men. And his temperament. It's not like you don't know." "You're right," the man in blue nodded in agreement. "Whether it's true or not, I'll ask Empress Mother to summon them into the palace and test them." The man in blue then said with a ruthless smile, "Although he has long been disqualified, we still need to be on guard against him. As it stands, of all the princes in the palace, including himself, none had any military power. They had all tacitly approved that he would be the one to inherit the throne, but didn't history show that the throne could always be usurped?" Ferocity emerged in the man's eyes. He ordered, "Return to the palace." *******. At the other side, in the Wang Manor, the Northern Warlord's Wang Fei was having a headache. The last time Xiao Zhiga came to pick him up from the Yin Manor and called him by his childhood nickname, he had not stopped referring to him by this name. Thinking of how this all-powerful general calling him no with a cold expressionless face simply made An Changqing's hair stand on end. But no matter how much he hinted at his aversion towards the matter, Xiao Zhiga refused to change. After being called no a countless number of times, An Changqing finally compromised and let it be. But for the time being, he was still not used to it, and each time Xiao Zhiga called him, he would blush uncontrollably. As a last resort, he decided to avoid Xiao Zhiga for the meanwhile. Fortunately, Xiao Zhiga would leave for the barracks early in the morning every day, and Changqing was also busy with finding a house. Thus, the two would only return early at night. This was how Changqing had managed to not drive the dignified northern warlord into sleeping in the study. Today, Changqing had ordered Anfu to prepare the horse carriage. He was planning to leave the city. After searching for several days, Changqing had finally found a suitable house. It was located just outside the city at the foot of Mount Qingyun. The surroundings were peaceful, and it even had a hot spring, perfectly suited for recuperation. Changqing intended to check the place in person, and if it was to his liking, he would buy it as soon as possible. Going out? Xiao Zhiga asked as he was about to leave the house as well. I'm going to Mount Qingyun to have a look at a house. Xiao Zhiga withdrew his foot out the door and sat at one side. Let's leave together, it's on my way. Changqing asked, is Wang Ye also going towards Mount Qingyun today? Xiao Zhiga, no. Changqing eyed him suspiciously. Mount Qingyun was to the south of the city while the barracks were to its north. How was it on his way? But Xiao Zhiga did not seem to be lying, so Changqing assumed he might have some other business to attend to and did not question him further. After some time, Anfu brought over the carriage for them to leave together. Xiao Zhiga looked at the carriage and slightly pursed his lips before asking Changqing, would you like to ride the horse? Changqing blinked twice, looking at the only horse he was riding, and understood what he wanted. He gave him a hard look and said, I'm sitting in the carriage, before stomping into the sedan. He could still remember that after the last time they rode together back to the manor, it had become popular subject of many of the stories circulating within the city. He refused to be looked at like some kind of spectacle. The lonely Wang Ye who rode by the carriage had his lips pursed as he followed the carriage with a blank expression. The carriage went past the main road and out of the city gate. As it was about to turn left towards the south, a group of people was seen running in the path ahead. At the forefront was a tall and scrawny boy, and behind him was a group of farmers chasing him with sticks and hoes in hand. The youth had exhausted his strength. He staggered for a few more steps before falling to the ground. The group of farmers ran up and encircled him, then began to kick and punch the boy. Seeing that the group was about to beat the boy to death, Xiao Zhiga spurred the horse and commanded, stop. The farmers saw Xiao Zhiga's intimidating stature and instinctively backed away. The boy had now laid motionless on the ground. Out of fear of being charged with murder, the farmers yelled in defense, he's a thief. Xiao Zhiga ignored them. He looked at the boy from high above and threw him his canteen and a medicinal ointment. He then rode back to the carriage and said to the coachman, let's go. Is it all right to leave him lying there? Changqing opened the curtain and asked. Xiao Zhiga replied, he'll live. Changqing hesitated. He looked at the boy lying on the ground with his exposed hands and feet filled with scars and frostbite. As he wavered, the carriage began to move again. Through the window, he saw the boy struggling to gain consciousness as he murmured the word mother. The word incited Changqing's sympathy, and he called for the carriage to stop. He looked at Xiao Zhiga, why don't we take him back? He's just a child, Changqing explained without much thought, at least send him to see a doctor. Xiao Zhiga saw him frown while trying to figure out a suitable reason to decline, but probably worrying that he would not agree. Without him noticing, his hardened spirit softened. He called for Zhao Shi, bring him over. Zhao Shi took a quick glance at Xiao Zhiga, then at Changqing's smiling face. Thinking back, he really had to agree with Doctor Hu that Wang Ye would only listen to Wang Fei, for he had never seen Wang Ye meddling in someone else's business before. Zhao Shi carried the youth over, and Changqing could see that he was shivering. He told Zhao Shi to place him in the carriage and gave him his heating pot. As there was no village, shops, or doctor's clinic anywhere nearby, and Changqing decided to take him with them to the house at the foot of Mount Qingyun. There was a doctor in the hamlet, and Changqing told Zhao Shi to bring the boy there while he checked out the house. Xiao Zhiga followed him to the house only to depart again. And Changqing asked curiously, "Where is Wang Ye going?" Xiao Zhiga replied, "The barracks." And Changqing thought about it, and it finally dawned on him that Xiao Zhiga had specially come to accompany him today. His heart warmed and he couldn't help muttering to himself, "Isn't it troublesome to run back and forth?" Xiao Zhiga did not hear his murmurs. He nodded and said that he would pick him up later before riding off. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. And Changqing looked through the house and was quite satisfied with everything, concluding that he would sign the deed of sale when he got back. After accomplishing what he came here to do, he remembered the boy and inquired about the doctor's residence to look for him. Zhao Shi was at the door when he arrived and reported, "The doctor has already examined the boy, there's nothing serious as he has only minor injuries." And Changqing nodded. He entered the room and saw the boy sitting on the bed drinking a bowl of medicine. He already had a change of clothes, most likely provided by the doctor, making him look a lot neater. Seeing Changqing, he quickly kneeled down and bowed, "Thank you, benefactor. This one will never forget this debt." Although he had tried to disguise it, Changqing could still tell that he did not have a Yejing accent. Taking a closer look at his face, Changqing found that his features was a little familiar. Changqing helped him up while observing him and inquiring, "What's your name?" "Zhou Helan." The boy lifted his head, showing a youthful face with a high nose and deep eyes, features of someone from a foreign land. To think it was really him. Changqing was bewildered and did not respond for quite some time. Zhou Helan, the preceptor of Yuzi Empire, was someone he had met in his previous life in the mass grave where Xiao Zhigaga's body lay. At that time, after Xiao Zhigaga's death, he had roamed the mass grave without noticing the passage of time. One day, two people visited the grave. The one in the lead was Zhou Helan. Zhou Helan donned black robes and had a grim expression. He had with him a pot of wine as an offering dedicated to Xiao Zhiga. Xiao Zhiga lived his life on the battlefield and died without a complete body. Before and after his death, he had been called many hateful names. That was the first time Changqing saw someone come to pay respect to him. He then followed him back to Yejing and discovered that many things had happened since Xiao Zhiga died. One example was that Xiao Qian, the deposed crown prince, had died of poisoning only 1 month after his ascension to the throne. The two great generals who assisted him each had their own agenda and started to fight against each other, which plunged the country into chaos right after a short-lived peace. At his time, the neighboring country of Yuzi Empire have taken advantage of this situation and launched a massive attack. Like a hot knife cutting through butter, the capital city was conquered in one fell swoop. The emperor of Yuzi, Huangzuyu, came to rule over Yejing and honored Zhou Helan as the imperial preceptor. End chapter. The Tyrant's Beloved Empress. Chapter 16. Spoiled and Extravagant No. Zhou Helan came from a humble background, and although he was later inaugurated as the imperial preceptor, he was still ostracized by many due to the fact that his mother was from the Shui Empire. Currently, the Deya Empire, the Yuzi Empire and the Shui Empire were the three powerful nations that were keeping each other in check. However, over 100 years ago, these nations originated from a single country called the Wei Empire and separated due to internal conflicts. After the collapse of the Wei Empire, the empire's 8 great marshals each ruled their territory separately for a long time until they were united by the great marshal of the Zhou state, Xiao Yanhong, whom the other 5 marshals later elected to become the nation's monarch, making him the very first emperor of the Deya Empire with Yejing as its capital. The remaining 2 great marshals, Xiu Sheng and Hui Xuan, refused to accept the new emperor and excluded themselves from the Deya Empire. Xiu Sheng merged with the nomadic Shui tribe and resided in the Zhe region, forming the Shui Empire, while Huaishuan ruled over the Fuliang region and established the Yuzi Empire. Over a century later, the Wei Empire ceased to exist, and in its place were the three separate nations of Deya, Yuzi and Shui. Zhou Heiyan's mother was a native of the Shui Empire. After Xuechang was crowned, he broke the Treaty of Alliance and began to suppress the local people of Shui. Although the country was still called Shui, its original citizens were ranked at the bottom, often regarded as untouchables and could be legally sold like livestock. And someone like Zhou Heilan, who had an unclear parentage, was of the lowest of the low. Anyone could step on him. In his previous life, and Changqing only knew that Zhou Heilan had been despised his whole life due to his lowly birth, and it was the emperor of Yuzi who disregarded his status and put him to good use. Thus, Zhou Heilan had indeed kept to his words of never forgetting to repay his debts, helping the emperor of Yuzi as his strategist. He told the emperor to send troops to the north and at the right time, kill the two generals and take over Yejing. After which, they could easily quell the rebellion and establish the Yuzi emperor as the ruler of Deyet. He was surprised to learn that Zhou Heilan would be in Yejing at this time, and it just so happened that An Changqing was also there to save him. Thinking back to the time Zhou Heilan had visited Xiao's Higa at the mass grave and said that he had owed him a debt, he had probably been referring to what had happened today. Maybe in the previous life, Xiao's Higa had also chased away the farmers and had given him medicine. Only this time, An Changqing had taken it a step further and brought him with them. An Changqing's eyes shone looking at Zhou Heilan, thinking in his heart that this was the opportunity to change everything. With everything that happened in his last life, he could tell that Zhou Heilan was a man who would honor his debt and was a naturally talented strategist. The reason the Yuzi Empire could occupy the Deya Empire was in part due to its civil strife, and the rest was Zhou Heiyan's skillful maneuvering. Such a person, he couldn't possibly let him go to Yuzi once again and become Xiao's Higa's enemy. And Changqing quickly put his brain to work and developed a plan. He went to help the boy up and asked, "You're not of Yejing birth, am I right? What happened on that road?" Knowing that An Changqing had uncovered his identity, Zhou Heilan turned pale. He bit his lips and said, My mother and I came to Yejing to find my father. It's just that on the way here, my mother fell ill. I didn't have any money to buy medicine, that's why I stole. I stole their food." As though he was ashamed, Zhou Heiyan's face turned red when he mentioned the theft. Worried that An Changqing would misunderstand, he quickly added, "But I will pay them back. Once my mother is well, I will find a job at a restaurant and pay them." His voice became soft as he hung his head down like a withered sapling. If it wasn't for his distinctive appearance, An Changqing could barely believe that this child would become the future imperial preceptor of Yuzi. The intent to reel him in subsided and gave way to genuine sympathy. An Changqing said, "With your looks, isn't it difficult to find a job?" Zhou Heilan looked up at him and said firmly, "I will keep looking. I'm willing to take on any job and I don't mind the hardships." And Changqing sighed and said with a smile, "Why don't you follow me? I'm planning to open several stores and am still short of staff. Your salary will be the same as everyone else. Food and shelter will be provided as well, how's that?" Zhou Heilan looked at him in surprise. After a long silence, he gritted his teeth and said, "I'm grateful that you're willing to take me in, but I was born in Shui." What it meant to be someone born in Shui, everyone understood, including those from Deyet. That was why even when his mother and he came all the way to Yejing, they were still being looked down upon. And when his mother fell ill, he couldn't find a job because no one would hire him. It was as though coming into contact with them would lower their status to the very bottom. However, An Changqing did not have the look of disgust that he had expected. He said, "That's Shui. This is the Deya Empire, we're not alike." Zhou Heiyan's eyes widened as he looked at An Changqing. His lips shook slightly and he suddenly knelt down and kowtowed to him, "I would like to follow you and be of use to you from now on." and Chang Qing was shocked by his reaction. He quickly told him to stand up and said, "You should recuperate first. When your injuries are healed, I will call for your assistance." Then he remembered him mentioning his sick mother and asked with concern, "Where is your mother? Has she seen a doctor?" Zhou Yian's delighted expression faded. "We've seen the doctor, but he said that there's no cure, she could only take medicine to prolong her life." No wonder. In his previous life, and Chang Qing only heard about his lowly background but seldom heard about his mother. By that time, she had most likely passed on. There is a doctor with excellent medical skills in the Wang Manor. If you're willing, you can bring your mother there for Doctor Hu to have a look. Zhou Yian's eyes brightened. He promptly said, "We'll go." And Chang Qing patted him on the shoulder, "Can you walk? If you can, then follow me back to the Wang Manor." Zhou Yilan nodded repeatedly. Worried about his mother's health, he immediately walked 2 steps to prove that he was fine. "These small injuries are nothing at all." And Chang Qing smiled and they left the doctor's house together. When they returned to the house, and Chang Qing asked the village chief to find a few older girls and train them so when his mother and sister arrived, there would be someone to look after them. After he was done with the trivial matters, it was just in time for Xiao Zhiga to return. And Chang Qing smiled at him and pointed to Zhou Yilan, "This is Zhou Yilan, he'll be following me from now on." Xiao Zhiga cast Zhou Yilan a quick glance but did not say anything. He nodded and said to Chang Qing, "Let's go home." Because Zhou Yilan was injured, and Chang Qing had let him sit with him in the sedan. On the way back, they passed by a village and Zhou Yilan told them that his mother was staying there. The group tagged along with him only to be led to a dilapidated abandoned temple. Half of the temple had collapsed and the roof was falling apart. A shoddy thatch was made with branches and leaves to provide a small area for shelter. Zhou Yian's mother was curled up inside, sleeping with her face covered. Zhou Yilan called out to her in Shiwei dialect, prompting her to turn around in joy. Looking at her from the back, and Chang Qing noticed that Zhou Yian's mother had even sharper features compared to him. With a high nose and deep eyes, she had the typical appearance of a Shiwei native. Zhou Yilan carefully pulled the grass and branches away. He then spoke a few words to her softly and after hearing them, she struggled to get up and bowed repeatedly to Chang Qing while expressing her gratitude in Daya language. Seeing that she was incredibly feeble, and Chang Qing told Zhou Yilan to help her into the carriage. Zhou Yilan smiled gratefully and wanted to express his gratitude but Chang Qing stopped him, "That's enough, no need to offer me these formalities." Only then did Zhou Yilan proceed with helping his mother into the carriage. The pair of mother and son did not have much with them, only a shabby-looking satchel which he picked up and carried over his shoulder. They stopped by the village where Zhou Yilan had stolen the grains to let him pay them back with money borrowed from Chang Qing. After which, the group resumed their course back to the city. Because he had let Zhou Yilan and his mother sit in the sedan, and Chang Qing had to ride with Xiao Zhiga once again. The burgundy horse shook its tail and trotted happily. Thinking of the countless eyes that would stare at him once they reached the city, and Chang Qing beseeched, "Can Wang Ye teach me how to ride a horse?" Xiao Zhiga's eyes drooped as he heard his words. From this vantage view, he could see from Chang Qing's head to his white neck where a few strands of hair had scattered down, creating an extremely adorable sight. If he was taught how to ride a horse, he wouldn't be able to see the scene anymore. Xiao Zhiga said, "I'm not free for the time being." And Chang Qing did not mind. He simply said, "I'll ask Tiehu or Zhao Shi to teach me then." Zhao Shi, who was following behind them, was so stricken with fear that his hair stood on end. Then he heard his general immediately respond with a poker face, "I'll teach you." And Chang Qing was at a loss, "Didn't Wang Ye say that you do not have free time?" Xiao Zhiga stayed quiet briefly then said, "I have time." And Chang Qing turned back and looked at him suspiciously. Xiao Zhiga kept a straight face as they looked at each other. "Why do you have to learn how to ride? Isn't it better to ride with me? Asterisk asterisk asterisk. Back at the Wang Manor, and Chang Qing told Steward Wang to bring Zhou Helan and his mother to the guest room and invite Hu Shifei to give her a diagnosis. He then called for the middleman and signed the deed of sale for the house. And hence, the house under Mount Qingyun was officially his. When An Chang Qing paid for the house, he was a little embarrassed as the money was taken from the Wang Manor's treasury. Although Xiao Zhiga had told him to spend it as he pleased, those were not really his to spend. He felt as though he was taking advantage of Xiao Zhiga. Therefore, after the middleman left, he said softly to Xiao Zhiga, "I borrowed the gold from the treasury to pay for the house, I will return them when I earn some money." "You don't have to return them." Xiao Zhiga was looking grim, but An Chang Qing did not notice it. He smiled sweetly and said, "If Wang Ye continues to be this generous towards me, I'll become spoiled and squander away your gold." Xiao Zhiga glanced at him, "The gold we have is enough for you to spend extravagantly." And Chang Qing was pleasantly surprised. He laughed with a twinkle in his eyes, "But I don't want the storytellers to make me into a Wang Fei who only knows how to indulge himself in luxury." They wouldn't dare. Infected by his laugh, Xiao Zhiga smiled at him and said, "No one would dare to slander the Wang Fei of the Northern Warlord." End chapter. The Tyrant's Beloved Empress. Chapter 17. If someone mock you, I will protect you. After acquiring the house under Mount Qingyun, An Chang Qing hired a craftsman to renovate and clean up the place. By the time the house was ready to be occupied, it was already the 12th lunar month. As the Labo festival approaches, the imperial palace sent out a summon requesting An Chang Qing and Xiao Zhiga's presence in the palace. In accordance to the imperial customs, as a Wang Fei, An Chang Qing was supposed to enter the palace to express their gratitude the day after their wedding. But there weren't many that liked Xiao Zhiga, and with An Chang Qing being a male Wang Fei, entering the palace would only invoke discontent. Moreover, despite the fact that their marriage was favorable to the emperor, he had crudely exempted them from this tradition. This was why An Chang Qing had not been to the imperial palace all this while. After seeing the eunuch off, a frown was stuck on An Chang Qing's face. At this time in his last life, there were no such summons. It was in the following year after their marriage that he and Xiao Zhiga were invited to the imperial palace for the New Year banquet. There were countless rules that must be observed within the imperial palace. The days before entering it, he had had many sleepless nights, worrying that he would make a fool of himself and incur Xiao Zhiga's wrath. In the palace, he dared not let his eyes wander and had to spend the New Year's Day in fear. At that time, the Empress Dowager and the Empress had also summoned him, but he had only responded with nods and timidly kept his head down. Although he had managed to pull through, he did not even take a good look at their faces. Now that he had been called to the imperial palace ahead of time, An Chang Qing was worried that something might have gone wrong. He combed through everything that had happened since his rebirth, but still could not figure out what might have caused this. Without any leads, An Chang Qing could only raise his vigilance. Thinking that there were only 2 days left, he should at least learn the proper etiquettes of the palace. The Wang Manor did have a Momo who had worked in the palace, but there was no lady in the manor, which was why she hadn't been called forth. Now that An Chang Qing needed her expertise, he had requested her guidance. "You don't have to learn all that." Xiao Zhiga stopped Anfu, who was about to call for the Momo. He looked to An Chang Qing and said, "When the time comes, you can just follow me. They won't make things difficult for you." An Chang Qing frowned, "But wouldn't this leave room for mockery?" Xiao Zhiga smiled and said indifferently, "The more faults I have, the worse my reputation becomes, and the happier they will be." And Chang Qing was slightly dismayed. He thought of all the rumors outside that had been blown out of proportion and naturally understood. A Wang Ye commandeering a powerful army but did not have any backing or the emperor's support. If he were to become a hero with glorious achievements and a splendid reputation to boot, what awaited him would be a swift death. and the first one who would put a target on his back would be the current supreme ruler himself, Emperor Sheng. Only by having his infamous reputation could Emperor Sheng relinquish any military power to Xiu Sheng and let him guard the northern border for him. This was also what the courtiers from different parties wanted to see. And Changqing raised his head and looked at Xiu Sheng. The man was sitting upright and with his back straight as a spear. By just being there, even without speaking, and Changqing could feel his dependability, which was strong as a mountain, as though no amount of hardship could crush him. And yet, and Changqing had witnessed his resignations with his own eyes. Emotions gathered in his eyes, and Changqing had finally understood the loneliness felt by the late emperor of the past. Back then, he clearly could have won, but he chose to open the palace gates. He clearly could have escaped death, but he chose to die alone in Kaiwa Palace. At that time, Xiu Sheng was probably too tired of it all. Armed with a weapon in hand, he had defended an entire empire only to be condemned by its people. Even Changqing himself, who should have been the one closest to him, had seen him as a monster and avoided him in fear. That was why in the end, he chose to let go of everything. If the nation did not want to be defended by him, then he would not defend it. If the people regarded him as a tyrant, then he will be a tyrant. Since the world had forsaken him, he had decided to relieve himself of the burden. Finally, he had died in solitude, just as he had lived. And Changqing heaved a sigh filled with sadness. He pushed down the bitterness in his eyes and approached Xiu Sheng. Kneeling down, he held Xiu Sheng's hand and looked up at him, "But I do not wish to hear anyone speak ill of you. You're clearly a wonderful person." Xiu Sheng briefly lost his breath as he looked at Changqing with dark eyes. After a while, his Adam's apple moved slightly and he said in a hoarse voice, "If you don't want to hear it, then I won't allow them to say it." His words were always overbearing, but Changqing had come to find that Xiu Sheng's stern looks were quite adorable. He rested his head against his knee and said, "And that is why I have to be presentable so as not to disgrace you." Xiu Sheng's heart was warmed. He curled his fingers and rigidly placed his hand over Changqing's head, stroking his black hair. "That will not happen. That's why I should still call for the Momo. I have to at least know how to avoid violating the more serious offenses." And Changqing stood up and his hair slipped away from Xiu Sheng's hand. Feeling a little unwilling to let go, Xiu Sheng touched his hand and said, "All right, I'll listen to you." *******. On the 8th of the first lunar month, Changqing entered the imperial palace together with Xiu Sheng. Changqing got up early that morning. His lipao had been prepared, and because he was not a woman, there was no need to put on heavy headdresses and makeup, only a more formal garment was needed for the audience with the imperial family. Xiu Sheng had also changed into a lipao for members of royal family. While his lipao was red and black, Changqing's was white and red. Between them, one was tall and strong while the other was slender and graceful. The two had such contrasting temperaments, but standing together, they looked surprisingly harmonious. Even Anfo had to softly compliment, "Wanya and young master are such a good match." Changqing smiled broadly, and although Xiu Sheng did not say anything, his expression had softened considerably. With everything in place, they left the manor together. It was snowing outside. A coachman pulled the carriage in for their use. As Xiu Sheng opened the door, he found that the brazier had just been lit and it was still chilly inside. He stepped out and ordered Steward Wang to fetch his fur coat from the storehouse. This particular coat was made from a rare silver fox that he had hunted in Yanzhou. The root of the fur was snow white while its tip was gray. Under the light, the coat shined with a silver glow. As he practiced martial arts all year round and was resistant to the cold, when the artisan had finished making this coat, Xiu Sheng had kept it in the storehouse. Now was the perfect time to let Changqing use it. When Steward had delivered the coat, Xiu Sheng shook it open and draped it over Changqing. Changqing was indeed feeling cold. Although the lipao was a complicated garment, it was not made to keep out the cold. His fingers were freezing and the coat Xiao Zhiga put on him had helped to ease the bitter chill. After fastening the cord of the coat for An Changqing, Xiao Zhiga said, "Get in." And Changqing beamed with delight as he stepped into the carriage. Xiao Zhiga was not riding a horse today and sat with him in the carriage. Wrapped in a thick fur coat on top of having his hands warmed by Xiao Zhiga, and Changqing was escorted to the palace gate in bliss. After passing 2 giant gates, they changed to a sedan carriage to enter the inner palace. One in front of the other, they were carried towards Kanyi Palace where the Empress Dowager resided. No longer having the brazier with him, and Changqing rubbed his hands together before opening up the curtain. The palace was just as he remembered, only without the dreariness and a lot livelier. As the new year was approaching, a grand banquet was about to be held and the maidservants and eunuchs were seen rushing back and forth to prepare for it. They sat on the sedan for nearly 2/4 of an hour before arriving at Kanyi Palace. And Changqing rearranged his attire after alighting the sedan. He took off the fur coat and passed it to a maidservant, then stepped into the hall with Xiao Zhiga. Inside, the fireplace had been lit and a warm air enveloped the place. And Changqing walked forward firmly with confidence and bowed in salutation after Xiao Zhiga. "Grant them a seat." The Empress Dowager raised her hand and the maids brought in 2 chairs. And Changqing sat with Xiao Zhiga and at last, he could clearly see the faces of the Empress Dowager and the Empress. The Empress Dowager was nearly 60 but she bore the look of someone in her 50s. She had a kind face and wore a Bodhi bead bracelet on her wrist, seemingly approachable. The Empress sat 1 step below her, smiling amiably. She had a slim build and an elegant face. She looked at An Changqing and said, "A few days ago, considering that you two had just wedded, I didn't want to trouble you with entering the palace. Now that you're here, I have prepared a few gifts for you lest you think that I only care for Crown Princess." The Empress Dowager cast An Changqing an inconspicuous glance, observing him while slowly twisting the Bodhi beads. And Changqing looked down and thought to himself, "Here it comes." But this time, he was prepared for it. He pretended to be flustered and said timidly, "This Changqing dare not think so. The Crown Princess is of noble birth and also my senior, your Majesty's love for her is as it should be. Changqing and Wanya are not bothered by it. That may be so but they're all children that I have raised, I still have to be impartial." The Empress smiled and beckoned the palace maidservant to bring in the gifts, "See if you like it." And Changqing immediately stood up and expressed his thanks. On the tray that was brought in were a piece of jade pendant, calligraphy brushes, and various other items, all of which were items generally used by men. After accepting the gifts, An Changqing sat back in place and heard her say, "I have 2 sons under my care, one is the Crown Prince and the other is Zhiga. His Highness had long been married and his child had also already started to walk, leaving Zhiga that still worries me. Now that he's married, it's time for him to spread his branches." And Changqing's heart sank as she continued, "You were only just wedded and I don't want to be meddlesome but Zhiga can be impetuous at times. Changqing, as a Wangfei, you have to know what's good for him. You can't let him do as he pleases. No matter what, he needs to continue his bloodline." And Changqing quickly understood the implications of her words. He immediately came up with a countermeasure. He abruptly got up, lifted his hem, and kowtowed firmly on the ground. He bowed and said, "Imperial Grandmother, Empress Mother, pardon Changqing as I cannot comply." This child, the Empress was a little surprised. She asked the maidservant to help him up but An Changqing refused to get up. He raised his head and said resolutely, "Wanya and I had long made a promise that in this life, we will only have each other and never to part." End chapter. The Tyrant's Beloved Empress. Chapter 18. The Little Liar. After An Changqing had said his piece, the hall became dead silent. The palace attendants all held their breaths and dared not look up. Such nonsense! The Empress Dowager clutched the Bodhi beads and pounded on the table with adequate strength to make a faint thud. The Empress also showed a worried expression, almost like a mother who was truly concerned about her son. She looked at Changqing and said, "Your marriage was fairly recent, it's natural for you to reject good-intentioned meddling. I understand that, but Changqing, you're a man after all, and it's detrimental for the continuation of Zhiga's bloodline. If you both do not like it, I'll pick someone for you, and after she has given birth, you can always send her away. It won't cause any hindrance to your relationship. What do you two think?" Although her words were aimed at the pair, the Empress's eyes were solely focused on Changqing. Changqing returned her gaze with an earnest look. The hand that was hidden under his sleeve harshly pinched his thigh until his eyes became bright red with tears on the brink. Even so, he kept his gaze straight and began to sob. "It's not like that, Wang Ye promised me." Changqing turned and looked at Xiao Zhiga with tears in his eyes. "Wang Ye had promised to treat me well, and in this life, there'll only be the two of us. Was that a lie? Does Wang Ye also want to have a concubine who can bear your child?" Kneeling on the ground with a straight back, Changqing looked like a small tree shivering in the cold winter while refusing to give up. With a desperate look in his eyes, no one would doubt the feelings of this lovelorn young man. The Empress decided against confronting Changqing and changed her focus to Xiao Zhiga instead. Xiao Zhiga's eyes were frozen as he clenched his hands, seemingly stunned by the turn of events. He stood up and went over to help Changqing up and comforted him. "I did not lie to you. I will not take in a concubine. Nor will I have children with other women." Xiao Zhiga's voice was strong and adamant, it resonated throughout the hall. The Empress observed him for a while before exchanging glances with the Empress Dowager. She then masked her emotions with a look of slight dissatisfaction and said, "Zhiga, why are you this disobedient? Although this Empress did not give birth to you, you're still raised by me. If you do not have an heir, how could I face your late mother?" Xiao Zhiga's eyes flickered at the mention of his mother. He lowered his eyes and collected his emotions. "This Wang Ye knows his wrong, but I really have no interest in women." Seeing them like a pair of desolate mandarin ducks, the Empress sighed. "All right. You're all grown up, I can't control you anymore." The Empress Dowager raised her gaze and continued to turn the Bodhi beads. "It's fine that you don't like women, but an heir is a must. If you can't have children, then adopt one to keep any more rumors from spreading. Don't you think that there's already enough gossip circulating?" There was no change in Xiao Zhiga's expression. He simply knelt beside Changqing and said, "Thank you for your Majesty's graces. In a few years, if we are to find a suitable child, we will adopt then." "That's good. Let the Empress assist you with looking out for any outstanding children." The Empress Dowager waved her hand. "I'll take my leave now, you both can go to the Empress's place." "Yes, Your Majesty." ******. After leaving Kunyi Palace, Changqing heaved a long sigh. Seeing that the Empress was walking way ahead of them, he secretly winked at Xiao Zhiga. Having just cried, Changqing's eyes were slightly tainted with a red hue, making his current expression both pitiful but mischievous at the same time. Xiao Zhiga was rather helpless, remembering the scene of his crying while questioning him. If he was not certain that he clearly had never said such words, he would probably think of himself as a heartless scum. What a little liar. The two managed to exchange a few glances before they reached Chaofeng Palace led by the Empress. They had lunch and spent some time with her. After hearing several perfunctory motherly pieces of advice, the pair could finally leave Chaofeng Palace. Changqing was bored after having to sit for too long, and hence, they decided to stroll back to the palace gate instead of riding the sedan. The snow that had fallen in the early morning was nowhere to be seen on the blue stone floor path. The only signs of snow were left on the tall branches and high roofs. Changqing stretched out his neck and looked back, but he could only see a range of white roofs. He couldn't tell which was Kaiwa Palace, the place where he had resided in his previous life. After Xiao Zhiga had ascended the throne, regardless of the persistent opposition from the courtiers, he still insisted on making An Changqing his empress, but An Changqing was not one bit happy, as he only felt unrest. He simply wanted to hide away from Xiao Zhiga and the courtiers' attention, allowing him to live his days in peace. That was why when Xiao Zhiga had pointed to the entire royal palace and let him pick his own palace, he did not choose to live in the Empress's Chaofeng Palace but instead picked the remote Kaiwu Palace. Strangely enough, Xiao Zhiga was not upset by it. In fact, he seemed vaguely happy. Since then, An Changqing had lived in Kaiwu Palace for a long time until his death. Unfortunately, Chaofeng Palace and Kaiwu Palace were too far apart. An Changqing tried to seek it out but to no avail. In the end, he could only sigh and casually ask Xiao Zhiga, in which palace did Wang Ye used to live in? Xiao Zhiga did not expect this question from An Changqing. After a brief silence, he pointed to an area to the left and said, I used to live there. When mother was still alive, we had lived together in Kaiwu Palace. After his mother's death, Xiao Zhiga continued to live in Kaiwu Palace all alone until he was brought to Chaofeng Palace to be placed under the Empress's care. Kaiwu Palace. An Changqing looked at him in shock. Xiao Zhiga faced him and asked, what is it? An Changqing recovered and shook his head. His eyes followed Xiao Zhiga's finger and landed on a familiar gable. The building was a long distance away and its name plaque could not be seen, but An Changqing could clearly make out the characters from his memory. No wonder. No wonder Xiao Zhiga was not angry at all when he chose to live in Kaiwu Palace. So that was the place he and his mother had lived together. An Changqing felt a tinge of remorse. He had overlooked too many things and never did he once try to consider this person next to him. Xiao Zhiga did not know what he was thinking about, but he could sense that An Changqing was in a low mood. He hesitated momentarily before reaching out to hold his hand. Let's go, it's getting dark. An Changqing felt the warm grasp which slowly dissipated the coldness of his hand. He was about to say something when a crisp voice was heard as it approached them. It seems that the rumors are true. Second Imperial brother's relationship with his Wangfei is indeed harmonious. How enviable. The source of the voice was a handsome young man standing on the snow. He donned a four-clawed dragon robe and behind him was a group of eunuchs and maidservants. His eyes stayed on An Changqing for a moment before smilingly saying, this prince is not bothering you too, right? Xiao Zhiga nodded lightly, Imperial brother. An Changqing followed suit and saluted, greetings to Imperial brother. The Crown Prince Xiao Qian was an articulate person, cheerfully conversing even without receiving a reply. And as he was familiar with Xiao Zhiga's enigmatic personality, he could only engage An Changqing in a conversation. An Changqing did not know much about the Crown Prince except that he was deposed by Emperor An Qing after a drunken immoral conduct. Although the incident was not exposed to the public, it was self-evident that his friendliness was just a facade. Raising his guard, An Changqing refrained himself from speaking to him. He pretended to be timid and shrunk back with his head down, only responding with the occasional nods. After the Crown Prince was bored with the seemingly monologous conversation, he announced that he was going to visit the Empress and excused himself. The group parted ways with Xiao Zhiga and An Changqing heading for the palace gate while the Crown Prince proceeded to Chaofeng Palace. As their distance increased, Xiao Qian looked back at the dimming silhouettes of Xiao Zhiga and An Changqing. Retracting his gaze, Xiao Qian blurted, say, is he just acting, or has he really taken a fancy? The eunuch by his side thought and said, I'm afraid it's just a show. I heard that on their wedding night, Wang Ye had slept in the study. Xiao Qian smiled, haven't you heard of the rumors outside the palace? My ruthless second brother actually went riding in the street with his Wangfei. Now their relationship has been twisted into various versions and spread across the city, but which one of it doesn't depict how much they love each other? The eunuch was confused, not knowing what to think. In that case, does this mean that the northern warlord really likes this unfavored son? Xiao Qian withdrew his smile and looked at him emotionlessly. Have you ever seen my second brother behave like that? There was never any tale of them having any prior interactions. How can love sprout within a few short days? The eunuch was in a cold sweat, not knowing how else to respond. Lucky for him, Xiao Qian was not expecting an answer. He placed one hand behind his back and strode slowly over the stone pavement, speaking softly in a bone-chilling voice, but with that appearance, it's not surprising that second brother has fallen for him. If it were me, I won't be able to leave him alone as well. The eunuch exclaimed, Your Highness. Xiao Qian glared at him in warning, I'm aware of the rules, you don't have to report this to the Empress. The eunuch wiped his sweat-filled forehead and replied, Yes, Your Highness. After exiting the palace gate, and Changqing and Xiao's Higa returned home in a carriage. There was adequate heat in the carriage, so when Changqing took off his fur coat only to feel chilly after a while. His eyes looked around and landed on Xiao's Higa. He naturally moved in and glued his body to Xiao's Higa's, stuffing his hand into his palm at the same time saying, It's cold. Xiao's Higa heard his words and wrapped his fingers around his hand, warming him with care. And Changqing pursed his lips and smiled to himself. He leaned in and asked, What does Wang Ye think of my performance today? Xiao's Higa looked at him, Very good. And Changqing pouted, thinking that this person had absolutely no tact. He had put so much effort and yet he couldn't sing a few more praises. What's good about it? And Changqing squinted his eyes and asked deliberately. As expected, Xiao's Higa was instantly stumped. He fumbled for a moment before responding, everything was good. To the point that he, himself had almost believed it to be true. End chapter.